I'm going to present to you the results from the Good Practice Questionnaire of the Arabic language, and hopefully accompanied with some reflections, being a native speaker of Arabic myself, and someone who had worked in different countries in the Arab region for the past 18 years. The Arabic language is a Semitic language. It is spoken by all these countries blocked in green as an official #1 language. And it is also one of several languages by other countries, like in Djibouti, Eritrea, and others. So there is about at least 200 million people speaking the Arabic language. The Good Practice Questionnaire that was developed by the Dyslexia International, it was translated into Arabic, and it was sent out to all countries in the Arab world. And the replies we got are from the countries listed under replies, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Morocco, and in West Bank. The other countries on the other margin, unfortunately, we did not get any replies. So I cannot report on facts or anything from those countries. And it's a shame because on a personal level, I travel a lot to Jordan, and I know there are a lot of efforts in Jordan regarding dyslexia, but there was no answer at all. Let's see. From Lebanon, we didn't get a questionnaire back, but I know that there is the Center for Lebanon for Special Needs, so I included it on the map. From Qatar, we received one questionnaire. From the UAE, there were 7 questionnaires returned. And from Kuwait, 1. Well, to save time, the most country we got questionnaires back from was the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, about 40 questionnaires back, which is good because it's a big country and it gives us a feedback as to what was going on. From Egypt, I got 1 questionnaire back. From Morocco, we got 1 questionnaire back. So after analyzing and reading all those replies that I received, I came up with a summary of the shared views, whether negative or positive, that was reported by all the respondents. What's going on? I'm clicking on the wrong buttons. Okay. The first one is there were so many comments regarding the difficulty of the Arabic orthography and the linguistic features in particular, because it has such a high demand on the visual cognitive aspect regarding the shape of the Arabic letter, how it changes when it changes its position, the number of similar shapes of Arabic letters. There were also comments regarding the difference between the spoken language at home and the taught language at school, the language of the curricula, which is referred to as the diglossia. Those were most of the comments regarding the linguistic features being seen as a constraint. Overall, regarding the question on the good practice about literacy, literacy is encouraged, and it's increasingly becoming more and more encouraged in the Arab world and all the Arab countries. However, almost all if not all, the Arab countries stated that there still is a degree of some rate of illiteracy, which made me research the UNESCO publications regarding the literacy rates and the Arab Knowledge Report, the AKR, most recent one regarding the literacy and illiteracy rates, which I will share with you shortly. Emergent literacy was reported to be ignored, and indeed, I think this is a serious issue. In fact, I would like all the Arab representatives today to walk out of this presentation today, keeping in mind that this is a very important major building block that is terribly ignored. I can talk about it more later on, but kindergartens are available, are increasingly, increasing in number. Kindergarten is still not a compulsory for all children. More and more children are going to kindergarten, but it's still, it's still not a compulsory state in some or most Arab countries. The other thing is what is being done in the kindergarten, for example, at the level of emergent reading and emergent writing. If you talk to any kindergarten teacher about what children do right in the kindergarten, they say we teach them to how to write the Arabic letters. This is calligraphy. This is not emergent writing. Of course, it's a major building block, a step towards learning how to write, but children are not given enough opportunities to write, for example, their names on worksheets. I've seen in many kindergartens the teacher walking around with a stamp, stamping the child's name on his or her worksheet. So there is some negligence in this aspect. Another thing that is really sad to see is the belief that children in kindergarten stage do not need to go to library to read because they cannot read. So whenever they're lucky enough, they send them to the library of the school to watch a movie, a video, which is a very common practice, and unfortunately, that's not the idea behind the library. We can talk more and discuss more about the emergent literacy later. Most Arab countries, if not again all, reported that dyslexia is not being officially recognized by itself. Dyslexia is seen as part of learning disability, or it is just embedded in the definition of learning disability, or the disabled, the law regarding the individuals with disabilities in general. As we heard yesterday, there is a difference between dyslexia and poor reading. Not every poor reader is to be considered dyslexic. So the recognition of dyslexia by itself is still not recognized enough in, let's say, in many of the Arab countries. Regarding the question on the good practice, how memory and phonological skills are enhanced, the reports I reviewed focus mainly on Quranic recitation to enhance memory and phonological skills. And in fact, Quran has a particular quality to it, which is it's very heavy with rhymes. So there isn't research done on that. Dr. Abu Rabia and myself are planning, already started talking about a study studying the relationship between the tilawa and the reading acquisition. Tilawa is the way Quran is recited. And children are exposed very early on in all schools to Quranic recitation. Almost all the Arab countries, with the exception of Kuwait, talked about lack of tools. Kuwait reported that they have tools to assess dyslexia. Many of the Arab countries, many of the Arab representatives whom I've spoken to yesterday, they asked me about what type of tools are there. We are looking for standardized tools. I myself, as a researcher, know that we do not have Arabic standardized tools in the area of language. For example, we do not have something like the preschool language scale or the Woodcock reading, the Woodcock-Johnson reading tool, or any of those. I have developed myself several screening tools for phonological awareness, and I'm also working with a team of linguists at the UAE University on unfolding or discovering the MLU, the mean length of utterance of children's oral language, which is really important for us to learn about because, as I talked about earlier, Arabic has the diglossia situation. So it is very important for us to learn about the mean length of utterance of children's oral language and compare their oral language in terms of vocabulary and length of sentence structure to the languages they receive, or the standard Arabic language they receive in their formal schooling years. There has been a request about professional development and sustaining of professional development in the area of dyslexia screening and assessment. And I would like to say here something that I personally, as a practitioner, suffer from is the overdiagnosis of dyslexia or learning disability or even ADD and autism, especially in the Middle East. In the past 5 years, I've witnessed that in many of the Arab countries, anyone can say anyone is ADD or autistic or dyslexic. So let's beware about that and the ramifications of this and how does this affect the child and his family, the child's future. There was a complaint about lack of professional or appropriate methodologies, appropriate resources to help people with dyslexia. There has been some efforts in that aspect. I've seen on the internet, for example, something that was developed to help the Arabic dyslexic child. I haven't seen it myself. I've just seen the ad on one of the web links, and it cost $875, which is not accessible to many families and many children. And besides, even if it was the most perfect tool, we need more and more tools. But what's very important to caution against is we cannot transliterate tools from the English language or other languages and apply it to Arabic language, because the Arabic language has its own linguistic features, just like any language. The Arabic language is a morpheme, is a root-based language. Any assessment tool or remedy tool must have a component of morphology in it to help the children advance and be able to decode and read better. This is the UNESCO definition of literacy. It's not anymore just to read and write. It has become much more complicated than that. And I'm afraid if we still suffer from rates of illiteracy, then we ought to pay more attention to this. We ought to invest, we have to invest in spending more funds and budgets as governments in the issue of literacy and education. These are some of the illiteracy rates among adults in the Arab world according to the UNESCO 2003 report and to the AKR, the Arab Knowledge Report of 2009. And we see there is variation here among the rates. Some countries have higher rates than others. Nevertheless, I wouldn't rest until the illiteracy rate is 0. These are the literacy rates among the young people aged 15 to 24 in the Arab countries, again, according to the AKR. And good news is the literacy rates are, among the young age, is better. However, it's not perfect, it's not 100%. There is still some degree of depressed scores, especially in Morocco, for example. Now, the good question is, how are we teaching reading in the Arab world? This is a very important question to think about. Think about our curricula, the Arabic textbooks. Think about what goes on inside the classroom. Think about the timetable, the schedule of the Arabic child who goes to kindergarten or grade 1. What are the components of those class periods? Our instruction focuses mainly on communication skills. such as speaking, listening, poetry, reading, and writing. Instruction in each of these areas is rotated every day. So children would get to do, for example, poetry, let's say, twice a week. And I'm aware that there are differences among countries. I myself grew up and graduated from high school, from kindergarten till high school in Kuwait. And then I moved on and I studied in UK and United States. I worked in Jordan, Palestine, and UAE. I worked with, as a consultant in Saudi Arabia. I've looked at the curricula in Oman, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in different countries. The instructional focus is on reading, but not how to read, not the alphabetic principle, not the phonological awareness skills. The teacher would call upon a student, and of course, the student who would put his or her hand up, who's lucky enough to be able to read, and say, read. Stop, you go ahead and read. So it is just reading the text, but how to read this text, how to decode this text. And the children who do not go to kindergartens will be mostly at risk or disadvantaged because they will be faced with texts when they go into year one. So they perhaps did not have the enough preparation. I came across different scenarios. For example, I asked a mother once, she was complaining to me about her daughter falling behind, and I asked her, didn't she go to kindergarten? She said, yes, she did, but in kindergarten, her teacher did not finish all the alphabets. She just taught them 10 letters of the alphabet. So this is just one example. Instruction is not robust enough, as I said, in phonological awareness and the alphabetic principle. In fact, it is almost absent in the phonological awareness. And in recent years, there have been some workshops in some countries regarding phonological awareness and the importance of it. But unfortunately, we are just falling in the trap of they say we are adapting, but they're not. They're transliterating tasks. For example, identifying the onset and rhyme, but the syllabic structure in Arabic is entirely different from English, the onset and rhyme versus the body and the coda. So the teacher must be aware of the necessary knowledge of her own language how to teach it. Speaking colloquial or the spoken language at school is not an advantage for the Arabic reader, for the Arabic child to learn to read. This is really a dangerous issue. I visited recently on purpose before I came to this conference 16 kindergartens. Out of the 16 kindergartens, I came across only one classroom that had a teacher who spoke literary Arabic to the children in the class. If we want to improve children's, or to teach children reading fast enough, we better speak it inside the classroom as well. As I talked about, the emergent writing and reading is neglected. How often do teachers read for children in schools, in kindergarten particularly? How often are parents volunteering inside the classrooms to read for children? Just some of the ideas to do there. Now, how does dyslexia manifest itself in Arabic? This is what I call a $1 million question until some of the research was published by several researchers. And I'm going to go through this quick because I'm in short of time here. Dr. Salim Abu Rabia spoke about the context sensitivity and how important it is to read Arabic in context and how important is the vowelization of the Arabic letters, that without it, the beginning reader would find tremendous difficulty in decoding or reading words or text. Errors of dyslexia and controls. There was another study by Abu Rabia and Taha, and this was really interesting because it conforms with other studies done in other languages. The dyslexic Arabic reader has a disadvantage of phonological lag. They do lag behind on phonological tasks, so there is some similarity. There definitely would be some differences between languages, but in the general terms, there are similarities. The performance on phonological awareness task, myself and also Dr. Haddad have done research on that. And again, Arabic is different because of its consonant-vowel cohesion. It's very difficult to break the syllable into its individual consonants or individual sounds, phonemes, because of the cohesion between the consonant and the vowel, especially in the initial structure. So if we were to screen children in phonological awareness task, it will be very difficult for them to identify the initial consonant by itself because of the strong relationship between the consonant vowel as a syllable. Which means we need to assess syllabic structure in Arabic. I've done also research on the oral reading fluency, and I mean by ORF, the speed and accuracy in Arabic. And it's obvious that the slower children read, they are more prone to make mistakes. So you would find more errors among children who are slow readers. So fluency is an issue we need to work on as well, fluency of reading. I mentioned the role of morphology, but there is a very good study by Abu Rabia 2006 on the role of morphology in predicting reading accuracy. So morphology is a very important component that must be taught implicitly or embedded in some tasks designed for the early group. And Eleanor had talked about the distance between the spoken language and the standard language on the level of the semantics, syntax, and phonology. These are my recommendations to increase public awareness on the issue of dyslexia and to devise more standardized tools and more screening tools as well. To create more public libraries, especially for the young age group. To develop reading materials that is age appropriate, to develop graded reading material, which we do not have at all in the Arab world. Sustain professional development, not only have professional development, but sustain it as well. Parental involvement as much as possible is needed. Conduct more and more research. Those studies I mentioned, in addition to few others, is not enough whatsoever. The dissemination of knowledge, something struck me in this conference that I had different colleagues and representatives asking me, do you know of this, do you know of that? So even when there was something, let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say there is a tool in Lebanon, and you have Lebanese representatives asking me about what is in Lebanon. So this is really important, the dissemination of knowledge. And I would really like to call, if possible, I mean, for someone to start something called Dyslexia for the Arabic language. It would be really important. Networking. The appropriateness of our reading materials, I would like to end it here. If we can just look at that as a positive criticism, the quantity versus quality, how much are our children being exposed to material, how much are they reading? In the grade 1 reading book, they have 3 units. In each of these units, they have 4 lessons. In each of, so 4 multiplied by 3 is 12 lessons. And each lesson has 1 line. Just like the text you see on this side, which means our children read per year 12 lines. This is really devastating, the least to say. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tibi.